So we're very lucky to have Pravrajika Divyanandaprana here today. She barely needs an introduction, but in case you didn't know, she's a monastic member of Sri Sarada Math in India. She's the editor of Samvit, and she has published the books Science of Happiness and Self-Discovery, and she's also been teaching contemplative psychology in colleges in India for the past 10 years? Yes. So please welcome Mataji with us. Thank you.
Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avataravarishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhur. Namaste to everyone. Very good morning to the offline audience and the online audience. I can see quite a number of people are here. So I'm very happy to be here. First of all, let me tell you that it's the first time that I have been here in California, and it's been such an enriching experience for me. And this ashram especially is so breathtaking, so beautiful. It's like a tapovan. You know, in India we call it a tapovan, a place of tapasya, a place of stillness, full of natural beauty. The ocean on one side and the mountains on the other. It is the perfect place for intense spiritual practice. So I'm really delighted to be here. And the topic for discussion today is the goal and the way. Now this is a morning retreat. So this is how we will proceed. From 10 to 10:45 we will have a discussion on the goal and the way. And then we'll have a short break for 15 minutes. And then we'll have a Q&A session from 11 to 11:30. And after that, I'll just do a guided meditation for 15 minutes. And then, of course, the puja will start here. You can watch the puja. And then we will have lunch at 1. So this particular topic, the goal and the way, this is what we all want to know, isn't it? But you know, it is not enough to know it just by thinking. That's the whole point. You can get a rough idea of it by thought and through our books and lectures and all that. But you will know what exactly the goal is only when you practice spiritual discipline. Sri Ramakrishna would say this, that you get one idea of God through the scriptures and reading and all that. You get another idea of the goal when you actually practice spiritual discipline, and you get still another idea when God reveals himself to you. Which means you deepen your consciousness to understand what the goal is. Without that, it is very difficult to understand. Not merely by thinking about it. Yes, thinking is the way. Shravan and Manan are the ways. But Nididhyasan is very important. Meditation. Deepening our consciousness so that we feel the sheer stillness of being. And then you will know for yourself what the goal is. So, understanding the goal of Vedanta is very primary to spiritual practice. You know, for the Vedantic life, I would say. Because unless I have a clear idea of the goal and I'm really yearning for it, what is it that sustains our spiritual life? You can find many people who take it up for some time, then there's a break, then again they get interested in it, again they leave it, again they come to it. So this goes on. What is it that sustains our spiritual life? It is yearning for the goal. So unless I have a clear conception of it, and I have very clear understanding of it in my own consciousness, I will not maintain this steadiness towards the goal. I will not understand why Sri Ramakrishna said, God realization is the goal of life. It cannot be anything else. Because human energy and human life is such, it's so different from the animals on this planet, that this energy can only move towards the highest goal of life. So he would always say this, God realization is the only goal of human life. Now, what do we mean by this and how do we understand this? See, in Vedanta is a philosophy which breaks all boundaries, I would say, which gives you an idea of the ultimate based on deep meditation and inquiry into the nature of my existence, not God's existence or somebody else's existence. My existence, what is it about? Once I get a clear understanding and hold over this, I will understand the nature of God naturally. But if I'm not sure what I am about, it's not about what my mind is about. It's about what my being is about. What is the unchanging eternal truth about me, my being? If we can penetrate and inquire into this deeply, and if it leads to a transformation of our consciousness, then you will touch something of the transcendent reality of the self, what is called the Atman in the Upanishads. So its cosmic version is the Brahman of the Upanishads. So we will understand something of what God means, what it meant in the Vedas, in the Vedanta, the word God. The cosmic reality of pure supreme consciousness is called Brahman. And its own, localized version is right here in me as myself. I am the self, functioning through this body-mind complex. I may give a lot of importance to my body and mind. That is my doing. But in my own awareness, the fact of my existence lies in pure awareness, in pure consciousness. If you can check it out at any point of time and see, am I more aware or am I more identified through a thought process with something? You'll see you are always aware fundamentally. Awareness is so primary to our being. So this pure awareness, pure being is the self. This is how it is seen in Vedanta. And what are these body and mind about? They are instruments through which the self expresses itself in this world. So they give me a sense of individuality. I have a personality. But my true being is the self, the Atman, pure being, existence, consciousness and bliss. So this is very nice to think about, but how do I experience this? That is the whole point. How do I experience this? See, something which is already there, always, all the time, shining, ever present. How will you experience it? You can't discover it. It's not an invention. It is ever present. Only thing is, our mind is turned too much towards the senses and the sense world. Look at the sheer beauty of this place. You sit anywhere here. There are a lot of benches around here. You sit anywhere and you can be deeply absorbed in the magic of nature. But nature has this deep stillness. So it will usher you into a deeper, an altered state of consciousness. So you can feel the magic of it if you just go out and sit anywhere in this particular place. We have such places in the Himalayas, but the ocean is missing. So this generating an altered state of awareness where you are able to see yourself from inside out, not from outside in, not as other people see me or as I appear to other people or as I would like to appear to other people, not in all these crazy ways. It is about my being and my awareness. If that comes into full bloom, my experience of life will change. Excuse me. See, this is the beauty of the whole thing. My experience of life is determined by my level of awareness. Not awareness of something. I'm not talking of awareness of something. Just my awareness, which is ever there before it becomes invested in the thought process and becomes awareness of something. Are you catching this point? See, this is I'm making a big claim that there is a certain awareness which is there by itself, and it is not awareness of something. You have to find out for yourself if this is true or not. It's all a first-person research. I am always fundamentally deeply aware. In that awareness, through a thought process, I identify with a body and with a framework of thought, which I call my mental philosophy or whatever. And through that mind, again, I am identifying with the world of objects. So I become Mr. So-and-so and Miss So-and-so, and then all the other, upadhis, attributes add on to me. So then I become a person, and then I become a strong individuality. And then I'm always trying to defend it without understanding my real being does not need any defense, does not need any prop. It is ever there. It is pure being. So if I taste something of it in the first person, I actually don't require to carry all this baggage of trying to be this and be that and appear as this and appear as that and try to improve myself. All this is unnecessary if I only touch the core truth about my being. So Vedanta is about this existential inquiry and understanding the fundamental nature of my existence. Or in other words, introducing you to yourself. However strange this may sound, it's an introducing you to your true being, unchanging being. Now, there's only one way you can realize Vedanta, by yourself. You may have the scriptures, you may have a guru, you may have teachers, but you will only experience it in your own consciousness because it is about your consciousness. And how do I experience that? And what is the way of Vedanta? Vedanta, very direct statements, Directly they are telling you, this is what you are, Tattvamasi. You are that, O Shvetaketu. The stories go like that. You are the Brahman which you are seeking. What you say I, when you say I, just think of the I without, attaching it to any upadhi. What you will find is what you are. It is not another thought about yourself. You are not what you think you are. You are there even before the thoughts came up. Am I right? Yes. In fact, if you don't think, if you stop thought in a perfectly conscious manner, in a perfectly conscious experience, you will come to that pure, unalloyed, crystal clear state of awareness. This is what you are. And the rest is all, made up, assumed, brought in from the outside, and it will change. So understanding the core truth about our own being is what Vedanta is about. That is the goal. See, a goal always appears to be something you have to achieve with lot of struggle and something far away out there. This goal is not out there. Nor is it to be achieved with too much struggle. It is your own being. It is ever-present reality. All we have to do is stop the chatter of the mind and the great identities the mind assumes in order to appear as this and that. This baggage which we carry, you have to put it down, that's all. So actually speaking, it is a process of desuperimposition or renunciation, putting aside what you are not in order to come to the fact of what you are. It's that simple. But people find it very complicated and philosophical, and they want to employ a whole lot of techniques towards it. For the simple reason we have not come to the understanding that reality is already present right here in the stillness of this beautiful temple. Brahman is present. And enlivening our thought process, so this discussion is becoming possible. He is enlivening it from within, each one of us. So tracking the core of our being, pure consciousness, that is the whole point in Vedanta. And when that is discovered, this entire phenomenal world, it really appears like, it's just temporary phase in time, in space. It is not a permanent reality out there. It is to a great extent our making. Our senses, mind, will, desires, everything contribute to the making of the world around us. Yes. And so then, that's why they call it a dream-like phase. It is considered a dream. So the way of Vedanta is to realize that life is very temporary. And there's something more to it if you discover consciousness, pure consciousness that you are. Otherwise, you will just be trapped in name and form and function and time, space and causation. Because those are the parameters through which your mind functions. Yes, it's a huge trap. That's why it's called Maya. We don't realize it. When you are in it, you don't realize it. If we get glimpses of being out of it in the states of meditation, in samadhi, then you will understand that yes, indeed, this is a huge trap. So to get this, the way of Vedanta is just to wake up to reality, the reality of your being. You can do it in any way you like. See, that is the beauty of Vedanta, as interpreted by Vivekananda. Take up your own method, your own way, your own path. And each one of you will do that only. No matter how much we standardize paths and call them religions or yogas or whatever, you will always come to your own way, your own path to move towards the reality of your being as your mind will understand it, and you will proceed that way. So Vedanta is that way very, very universal, broad and very scientific and rational. And it believes in waking up to the reality of your being. That's the fact about your existence. It is not a concocted philosophical reality, not born of your thought. It's not a thought construct. It is existential analysis towards existential reality. The path of inquiry, the path of Vedanta. So then you have to wake up. So let me tell you a story here, because we are going too deep into the goal of Vedanta. This story is kind of very funny, but it will illustrate how Vedanta works. So this story begins in a classroom of very young students. And these primary school students, they are just 5 or 6 years old, and they have a teacher who's been teaching them for long, and she knows very well the ways of little children. She has her own ways of driving in her point. So she's very experienced. So one day she wants to tell them something. So she tells them, "Look, my children, today you had a full day at school. Now you will be tired, and then you will go home, and then your mommy will feed you, then you will play, maybe you will go through your today's work a bit, and then you will sleep. You will go to sleep. And then imagine you had a dream. And in that dream, you visited the local zoo. And you went there, and suddenly you discovered when you were standing there, your friends are also there. Yes, some of your friends are there with their parents, and you have gone with your parents. And first you go and buy some ice cream and cotton candy and whatever you like. And then you enter the zoo, and then you all of you are super excited because now you're going to see the animals up close. So then you come to first the places where they keep the smaller animals. You see the deer, you see the rabbits, you see the peacocks, and then you go to that point where you see the jackals and the wolves. You see the snakes, all so many types. So long you have been reading about them, but now you can see them and identify them. And so you are so excited seeing everything, and you watch for the actual movements and the gaze of these animals, and like it's such a nice experience for you. So after a long time you're visiting the zoo, and then you're very excited about this trip. Then you proceed towards the bigger animals. So you see the crocs, and then you come to the places where they keep the elephants. So those huge African elephants. You know, the Indian variety is quite different from the African variety. So the African elephants with their huge ears, you see them, and then there's a baby elephant. You enjoy all that. And then you proceed gradually towards the cages where they keep the hyenas. Yes. And then you go to the cage where they keep the tigers and the lions. Now, these places where they keep these huge animals, carnivores, they are, the cage is very huge, but it is open at the top. And there's a place around the cage where the tiger can come out and actually walk around. And there's quite a place for him to move around. And then so from time to time he's let out of that huge cage and he moves around. Then there's a body of water there, a moat sort kind of thing. And then there is the wall, and you are looking from the other side. So there's a whole lot of distance between you and the tiger. And now it so happens that this tiger is very huge, a huge one with very ferocious eyes, and he's looking straight at all of you, gazing at you. And then, I had this experience in South Africa, I can tell you. You get to the feel of the real South African safari there. And those animals are really huge. They are almost double the size of the Indian tiger. Yes, and they can be so huge. So when he moves from this side to that side of the cage is like rocking like this. It moves like this. Yeah, that's really an experience. So this was a huge tiger like that. And he was moving in the cage this way and that way. And he seems to have been very hungry, because he was striking the cage from time to time. And once he struck the cage really hard, and the cage suffered a dent, It bent towards one side. And by some strange way, he just jumped. He could jump out of the cage. So now he's in that particular place where, he can move about around the cage. He's there, and from there he can directly see you now. So all of you are all the more scared now looking at this tiger. And he is just looking at you very seriously. And then you suddenly find that he's coming down towards the moat, towards that body of water around the cage. And tigers can swim. Yes. So he comes down there, and now he's wading through the water. Then all of you just step back, and you don't know what to do. So all of you feel that we should just, what if he jumps the wall now? There's just a wall between you and him. And he comes out of the water. You see this. And he's trying to creep up the wall, climb the wall. So at this point, all of you shout and run backward. Because suppose he jumps up the wall, what are you going to do? So then you are moving backward and shouting at your parents. And there's such a lot of confusion. All the kids are moving backward and shouting. And the parents are screaming and pulling their children along. And then you suddenly see that with a loud roar, the tiger actually jumps the wall. Now there's hardly any distance between you and the tiger. So you're running at full speed. You're so scared and so absolutely, frightened at this prospect of the tiger jumping on you. You can't even think anything. You're just running as fast as you can. And some of your friends are shouting, but you're just running, and suddenly you face this terrible experience of a cold paw falling on your neck. Yes. And you turn around, and there's this huge tiger face on you. So now you face this prospect of being eaten alive. Now, my children, in this state, what will you do? Now, by this time, the children were all, almost in tears. and red. They had the faces had turned red. And then one little boy said, "Madam, I will punch the tiger in his nose. I'll teach him." Then another child stood up and said, and he was already crying almost, he said, "I'll call out to my mom. She'll come and help me, definitely." And one little girl stood up and said, "I will just wake up, madam." You remember, it was a dream in which they went to the zoo. I'll just wake up. Vedanta works like this. You have to wake up to the reality of your being. There is no need of punching the tiger, nor crying for help, nor running away from our problems. They are all to do with the mind. Vedanta it goes beyond the mind. It is about waking up to the reality of my being. We have confused these existential and psychological aspects of our being. That's our problem. So we feel we can fix everything by either running away or tackling the issue or, calling for help, seeking help. The actual fact is you must wake up to the heart of reality. All this you can try, definitely. But the fact is, it is a long drawn out dream. When you touch the core of your being, you can best handle the mind and its problems. This is what it is trying to teach us, this story. You must first wake up. Many of us, are we fully awake? We may think we are, but to be fully conscious, it's a yogic experience, Many of us are partially awake. I wouldn't say half awake, maybe a little more than that. Yes, from the yogic standpoint, we are only 3/4 awake. But you can become fully awake if you know how to handle your vitality, your vital energies. It leads to a deeper level of awareness. And it can be so transformative. That's why it's called super consciousness. It's not just being fully conscious, it is being super conscious, which means you have awakened to a level of reality where you can actually give things their place. Yes, you don't allow the external to guide your destiny. You have taken charge of this entire system. This is possible if you become fully conscious, or what is called super conscious. So this is the goal of Vedanta. The de-superimposition, that will naturally occur, which means the correct perception of reality will naturally occur if you are fully conscious within yourself. The more light you have within yourself, the more the mind will remain uncluttered and clear. So Vedanta aims at this. It's a transformation of consciousness. And it is an introduction into our pure being. It can only be done by waking up and not by remaining involved merely with the sense life and the mental life, which are to a great extent our own making, This is a hard point to digest, but if you actually see from the vantage point of the realized, you will see this is a fact. A lot of the drama of everyday life is the psychological reality of your life. It is not your existential reality. So Vedanta's entire focus is on the actual nature of your existence, the existential reality of your being, your pure being, pure consciousness. So what they tell us is every day, if you can dip into that, it will be as refreshing as you sort of, just like how you press the refresh button on your laptop, like that you refresh life by doing that. Yes, you get a new experience of life after that. You renew life in a way. But if you are only engaged with the apps and there's no refresh button, mind is an app, it functions like an app. So you are, you never get to refresh the system. So you are always carried away by conditioned thought and emotion. And it can, you know very well how it can mess up with your life. Because we are trying to search for solutions and answers, that's why we are coming to Vedanta, isn't it? So the whole secret lies in getting a real dip into the true being that we are. It's really the most refreshing experience of your life. In fact, it gives your mind space to breathe after that, you know. Otherwise, it's too cluttered with a whole lot of negative conditioning to have even space to breathe. Yes. So the mind feels bored, it feels agitated, it doesn't feel good, there are negativities, and there's so much of mental suffering, despair. So all this is only because the mind has not touched the soul. You have not touched the essence of life. Consciousness is the essence of life. You must bring it into the experience of life. For this, there are ways, methods. See, the actual path of Vedanta is you just wake up to the reality of your being. They will not even recommend the other paths. But Swamiji made it very easy for us. Knowing our state of affairs, Swami Vivekananda, who worked in this country for 5 years, he gave us, he gave us definite paths towards this supreme goal. And they are called the yogas. You must have heard of it very well. There are 4 yogas and there are books on them. Each book of Swamiji on the 4 yogas is a complete book in itself. It will give you all the information required for that particular path. See, there are 4 yogas which Vivekananda spoke of: Bhakti, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga and Karma Yoga. And you have separate books on them. Now, which yoga do I choose? Well, you have to choose all of them because we have all the faculties of thought, emotion, and inclination towards quietness, stillness, meditativeness, and we have the inclination to work, which is very strong in most of us. So all these 4 faculties are right within us, so you need to practice all the 4 yogas. A harmonization of these yogas is what Vivekananda recommended, which means let us take up a bit of each yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the path of directing your emotions to God. Especially the emotional life, if it is raised to a particular level, it will become the devotional life. Devotion leads you directly to the knowledge of God. Nothing more is required. So you see, many of us, our life is so messed up because we are messing up with our emotions. And the number one need of all humanity is emotional security. You find this in all societies. So that's why the relationship, the drive towards relationships, the drive towards friendships, all that we do in life, it is only for this deep emotional security which we seek. Now, Bhakti Yoga is a way of converting our raw emotions into something more refined and directing them to the ultimate. Directing them towards a personal God whom you can love, who's always there for you, who gives you the highest love, who gives you the highest understanding, who's ever present in your life, and who will not judge you. Yes, who's your eternal friend, because he's the transcendental reality coming to you in that form so as to make sadhana possible. That is the personal God. So Bhakti Yoga deeply relies on your devotion to the personal God. That is when practices like japa, worship, puja, the meditation on the Sagun aspect of Brahman, all these become important. So don't think just because we understand a little Vedanta, we should put aside all this. This is not required. Very much required until we transcend mind. Until there's no need for any emotional transformation. Until then we require all this. All of these we require. Otherwise, it can happen like this, that your intellect is given to Vedanta. Your emotion is given to somebody else in the world. And your actions are, going in another direction altogether. So then this will not bring about spiritual development, spiritual growth. So emotional transformation of our emotions into high energy and devotional energy. This is very important in spiritual life. When you make God the focus of your emotion, your life becomes devotional. You generate the devotional energy, devotion out of your life. This is very, very important. Nobody can, bypass this and go forward just by intellectual gymnastics. Don't think you can do that. Because emotion is a huge part of your mind. Yes. And emotion is nothing but thoughts with feelings. So you have to counter them and take care that your emotions and emotional energy become an enriching experience in your life, become an agent for transforming you, and not for, putting you further into Maya. Yes. This we have to take care of. So Bhakti Yoga is very important. In fact, many people, they go very far just because they practice Bhakti Yoga. But then it should not become a mere, sentimental issue. So for that, to temper your emotions, you require Jnana Yoga also. Yes, you require intellectual acumen and applied to the final goal of your life. So you require Vedanta, you require yoga psychology, you require all these disciplines, you require talks and lectures, you require to think about them, you require to again and again cogitate, you require to practice some of these disciplines, meditations. Jnana Yoga becomes very important because we have our entire educational system is geared towards making us intellectual beings. So you have a bright intellect which will constantly keep functioning. So mere sentiment will not do. So bring in Jnana Yoga into your life. It's a constitutional necessity, all these 4 yogas. Then in addition to this, you have the temperament to sit still. I found this so much in California, people love to sit still for long hours. So many of our devotees do that. This is something so beautiful. You will experience life only in stillness, because stillness is awareness. So it is so very important to this inclination towards meditation, the meditative mind. It is the heart cry of most people. So that is why we have Raj Yoga. That particular yoga or discipline which will help transform this inner yearning into the actual meditative practice. So if you actually read Swamiji's Raj Yoga, you will find all that you require for the meditative life. The preliminaries, the procedure, the process, and the obstacles you can face, how to overcome them, and the actual practice. How do you meditate? All of this you will find. So meditation is the direct path to God. Don't undermine any of these yogas because it is all important to a few. Meditation, the path of meditation, Raj Yoga, Vivekananda used to say it is the science of religion. And if you take it up like that as a science, you will discover it will take you into the science of consciousness, which is Vedanta. Science of consciousness is Vedanta. So that is why we say this yoga and Vedanta, they are so close. You take up any one of these yogas or a combination of these. And then of course there is Karma Yoga. You must have seen that small book on Karma Yoga. It is again a complete book in itself. So this propensity towards action, see, it is so fundamental to our life, please see, because there's a huge amount of rajas in our system. So instead of just working for somebody or, once our survival needs are taken care of, you must make sure every action and the fruit of that action becomes a means towards my spiritual growth. So Karma Yoga is the way, the method to convert every action into a yoga, into a means towards spiritual transformation. So this is possible if you work without agentship and without an eye on the fruit of the action. This may appear almost impossible in the beginning, but this is perfectly possible for the yogi. His expectations and anticipations and all that have transformed completely into something else. So there are no expectations from the work he is doing. He will do it selflessly, yet with full vitality invested into that particular action, and without an eye on the fruit. As an offering to the divine, he will do it. And he will just progress in spiritual life just through that discipline. So you can convert this propensity towards action into a yoga. So all of these yogas, you see, they are geared into converting the elements of our own personality into means towards spiritual transformation. So don't think it's a matter of choice. Well, I like Jnana Yoga, so I will adopt Jnana Yoga. It's a constitutional necessity that you adopt all the 4 yogas, because you have these faculties of thought, feeling, meditativeness, and work. So Vivekananda has given us a treasure, I can tell you that. He understood that the common man will require a method to go towards what we are talking of in Vedanta. And that is why the yogas. Once we tune into these yogas, you will see it is something very beautiful. The whole of life gets divinized. Which means whatever you are doing, in a way, you are doing it for God. You are doing it for the highest goal. You are not doing it for selfish or petty reasons. It's not a barter. You're doing it with a definite spiritual purpose. You're not wanting an exchange of something for it. So by this, life gets divinized. See, what you mean by life constitutes 4 things. First of all, your body and the work it does. Then your mind and the thoughts and emotions and will. And then your vital energies. And finally, your awareness. So these are all what constitute your life. Now, there is a deep connection between these. If you handle your vitality in a spiritual way by the practice of all these yogas directly, they are actually handling the vital energy in your system in a particular way. Your thought, your emotion, your will, your action. So if you handle them in a particular way, it will unfold the highest awareness. There's a connection between your vitality and your awareness. So this is what the yogas are trying to do. Conditioning your vitality in a particular way so that the highest awareness is unfolded. So it is the means towards the end, the way to the goal, these yogas. So don't think just the intellectual study of Vedanta is sufficient. It is not sufficient. It will create the mental vrittis you require. It will create a very good sanskars in you, no doubt. But you have to do something with your entire system in order to achieve that. So that your thought, emotion, will, and vital energy are aligned. They function towards the goal and not away from the goal. So that my thought is not doing one thing, my emotion another, and my will somewhere else. So that does not happen. It is required to combine the 4 yogas. So that is the way towards the goal. Once I have understood what the goal is, you will see that these ways which have been prescribed, they are really very, very effective. So the whole of your life gets divinized by degrees. Proceed slowly, cautiously, but carefully, intentionally, with a lot of positive intention, and willfully, deliberately. You are doing it as a means towards the ultimate goal. And you'll see any action in your life will become a yoga. If the goal is God, anything you do can be made into a means towards that end. But if the goal itself is not God, don't think you can practice yoga. Yes, the goal can be something else and you can be meditating on that something else, Yes, only when the goal is God or Brahman, anything you do, whether it is worship, whether it is service, whether it is your job, your family, it can be converted into a yoga. So the goal and the way are intrinsically connected. Make the goal clear in your mind, but know what your mind says is not the goal. Yes, you are not what you think you are. It's something way beyond that. But get the intellectual conception clear and adopt the yogas as a means towards that goal. And, life will, you yourself will feel the sheer beauty and joy of life. Life means an opening into reality. It is not about just thinking about reality or emoting something. No. It is about opening into the real, which means fundamentally becoming more and more conscious. And until you reach the state of super consciousness. So it is way beyond the doings of the mind, but the mind is the way towards that. The yogas are the way towards that. So you see, this is a beautiful commingling of, you can say, Sankhya, Yoga, and being geared towards Vedanta. This is how Vivekananda has put out the yogas as the means and the method towards the highest realization of Vedanta. If we can follow something of this, I think the goal will be definitely possible in this very life. Thank you very much. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Stretch yourself. Go out, take a walk, and we'll meet at 11. We begin the Q&A session now for the next half an hour. So if you have any questions, the floor is open. Yes?
I wanted to thank you so much for amazing, wonderful presentation. I have two questions. I was very happy to hear the connection you made between bhakti yoga and emotions. No one has made that clear before. I really appreciate it. But I wonder, I can understand how bhakti yoga helps us channel love and compassion.
Yes.
How does it help us channel anger,
Yeah.
rage,
Yeah. Yes.
those emotions?
Yes.
The second question I had is, this morning I had to decide between, could I do my hatha yoga practice, my body practice, or could I come here? And I chose to come here because I didn't have time for both. But why did Swami Vivekananda not bring in the hatha yoga too, the body too? Those are my two questions.
Yeah, good questions. Very good questions. So the first question, you see, it's relevant to all of us. How do we channelize all the negativity within us towards God? Because bhakti is about channeling all your emotions, isn't it? So what about we have a whole lot of negative emotions and they pop up in so many life situations. So are we to offer that also to God? See, this is a very important point. Sri Ramakrishna, you remember that prayer of Sri Ramakrishna, Ma, ei nao tomar dharma, ei nao tomar adharma, amai shuddha bhakti dao. Ei nao tomar paap, ei nao tomar punya, amai shuddha bhakti dao. All the polarities of life, in a general way, he surrendered at the feet of the Divine Mother. Now, in our own life, see, they come only to show us the way. In a general way, you surrender everything that is in your mind at the feet of God. But this does not mean you direct your anger or your whatever resentments, negativities within. You are not to direct them towards the chosen ideal. Because he is only an object of love. He is an object of adoration, of worship. You can't direct anger towards him. The problem is, if there's only anger in the mind, what do I give you? If there is only strong, whatever, negativity in the mind, then what do I give you? So if that is the case, one has to undergo a certain preliminary process of purification. What it means to say is learning to understand that anger, hatred, resentments, all these negativities, even our worries and whatever passions you have, strong passions, all of these, learning to convert them into something more positive in life. See, that is raw energy. It is vital energy. It is vital energy. Your emotion is a huge chunk of your vital energy, your vitality, your prana. So now you're investing it into something so negative, it can't be offered to God. It can't be sort of directed towards God. So it will not help you in your spiritual practice at all. So I must have, the intelligence to reduce its velocity, reduce its strength, and convert it into something more positive and acceptable. Like just try to get into the mind of your whatever offender or whoever is making you angry and try to see things the way he's seeing them. It will reduce your anger a bit. Try to radiate only kindness towards all souls through prayer, through worship. If you can in some way change that negative energy into something more positive, then you can direct it towards God. But if it's raging anger, how can you direct that towards God? So it's a sheer waste of vital energy. It is to reduce all this wastage of vital energy that the yogas are prescribed. So in bhakti, you direct only your love and devotion towards God. There is supposed to be a path where, people like Kamsa, they directed even their anger and hatred towards God. But that is an almost impossible path for the average human soul. Yes, it is there in the Bhagavad that they directed even that towards God, and the intensity of their anger made that realization possible. But don't try to follow all that, because for the average human mind, if it does not jump off the that which keeps it on the same track, that is a big thing. When you have very strong negative emotions, there is always a chance of your mind jumping off, becoming a little insane, and then you jump back in. But to prevent all this from happening, just try to reduce the force of your negative emotions and gradually that's why this pratipaksha bhavanam, when there is a anger, I will deliberately talk sweetly. I will deliberately try to bring in a positive emotion. Somebody threw a very bad, thought at me, an angry thought, and I really felt so bad. I will deliberately radiate love towards that person. If you practice like this, you sort of mellow and make all your emotions sweet. So no matter what is thrown at you, you are in a position to manufacture positivity out of it. These ways you transform the mind, but you can't put your anger and passion and all that, you can't direct it towards God. Because I'm telling you, he's an object of love and affection, devotion. Now, if there's a baby in your hands, can you be terribly angry on somebody with a baby in your hands? You can't. It's something like that. God is an object of adoration. You will give him the best in you, isn't it? So learn to transform your emotions from negative to positive, because you can't afford to waste your vital energies. It's a sheer waste of our vital energy, isn't it? Which is meant for God. That's why I said, if you give your vitality to God, he will transform your awareness to the pitch required. And you must learn to handle your emotions well. It is this element of life that is causing the greatest problems in every society. Our inability to handle our passions and anger and lust and hate and all this. And jealousies. This is the main problem. Purification actually means this. Somehow removing the energy out of these. When you remove the energy out of this, they will just go flat. And conditioning yourself positively, which means you radiate something else towards that person that will actually even transform that person. This requires a lot of practice and maturity to do. But it is a technique. In fact, it is prescribed by Patanjali, Pratipaksha Bhavanam, which means in any negative situation, you will radiate positivity deliberately. Try this out and see. It can be very effective and transforming. And you actually feel so, elevated after an episode of this. You feel exalted. But if you react in the same manner, well, what's the difference? So, all emotion is meant to be given to God. But when we have strong negative emotions, they have first to be transformed and purified before you are able to put everything at the feet of God. This is very important. I can understand because, see, our life, it is a devotional life. When you actually practice devotion, all these elements become important. Even if you're angry with your son for more than 5 days, it will affect your devotional life. You may think, oh, well, it's okay, he's only my son. No. Your mental, vibrations have to become different. And the same bhav, how can you give it to God? Bhaber Bishay, the language is very beautiful in Bangla. Emotion is Bhaber Bishay, devotion especially, which means your emotional disposition plays a huge role in your devotional practice. Isn't it? Then how can you allow it to just go negative? And don't do this injustice to yourself. Don't give your emotions to any kind of negativity. Don't surrender them there. Lift them up. They are meant for God. Yes?
Swami Prabhavananda told her that pray for the person who makes you mad.
Yes.
And
yes.
you will also, your rage will go down.
Exactly.
And it benefits
Exactly.
the other
That's
person
the
too.
point I'm trying to make. Because this toxic people will be there everywhere in your workplace, and they will be there. People who are wanting to reduce your energy, This is also God's Maya. The soul will face a lot of obstacles like this in its progress. Now, if you're really intelligent, you won't give in to it. If somebody is, trying to reduce my vital energies by making me angry, by being jealous of me, I will see how I can convert that into something positive. Isn't it? I should try towards that. And this is the way. You radiate positivity, you radiate understanding, you pray to God for that person. We do that. Pray to God for whatever reason that mind is functioning like that. Pray to God and you will get help. But if you react and retaliate, and then it's a sheer waste of your vitality, vital energy. You read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, everything is there in that. He would say, a sadhu-like person need not even hiss. He of course should not bite, but he need not even hiss. Which means the divine is there to protect all of us. If we really have the sadhu mind, the sadhu heart, you cannot harm, you cannot be negative. Even to people who are wanting to do some harm to you, because the divine power will help you then. So try it out and see. All this really works, I can tell you. People lose their toxicity when they come close to a saint, isn't it? How is that possible? It's only an exchange of energy. The negative energy got annulled by the amount of positive output from the saint. So if you have to generate it, that's why vital energy matters a lot in unfoldment of the highest life. It's after all energy. We know everything about external energies, you know everything about nuclear energy and atomic energy and electricity and everything, but you don't know too much about vital energy. It's the energy that animates my system. I should know first how to handle that before I learn to handle external energies. I should know how to handle my emotion, which is an emotion and thought are expressions of that vital energy. That's why, in India, they even resort to practices like fasting. They fast for a long time. If they feel the mind is behaving just crazy, they will reduce food intake. And they stay up at night doing japa. If there are bad thoughts in the mind, all these measures are taken. Take the name of the Lord. Reduce your food intake and sense intake for some time and calm down the mind. And increase your devotional practices. See, the name of God is magical. You just take it continuously, it will make all the changes you require in your mind. But it's so easy that we don't practice it, Easy practices we don't want to do. We want to do all the complicated stuff.
In devotion, we say we need an Ishta Devata and we should stick with it. Like Ramakrishna says, you have to dig the well in the same place.
Yes.
But at the same time, at least most of the time, Indian background, we have a lot of Krishna, Shiva. Also, we have this motherly aspect, so it's difficult to stick with sometimes it will commingle, sometimes some other aspect come, but we feel devotion to more than one. What exactly is the right approach? Or is it at the same time, we also know that everything is same, different aspects manifest. That's easy to say, but may not be easy to feel it. What is your suggestion? How do you handle that?
That is an important question when it comes to spiritual practice. It is true that you can have a general devotion for all deities because they are manifestations of the same God, the same divine consciousness, but a special Ishtanishtha, it is called, is required for one. Why, every day you are practicing meditation on that form. You are taking that name. You are connecting with that consciousness. So just like how you prize your individuality, you must have nishtha for the chosen deity because that it is through that connection that you are going forward. This is important when it comes to spiritual practice. So you pour your entire love on one being. It is true that that same being is manifested through all those deities, but still, that form, that name, those qualities, those attributes, they mean so much to me. Anywhere where there is concentration of vitality required, it is important to make the object of your concentration singular. That is why Ishtanishta. Otherwise, you will find every day you like somebody else, Yes, you want the Hanuman mantra the next day, and after that you want Durga mantra, then you can't proceed that way. It's a kind of commitment and a devotional commitment which you can't change. If you want to dive deep into something, you must choose one point to dive deep into. That's why Thakur said, dig the well at the same place. Every day you choose a different place, do you think you'll get the well? You'll get water? You can dig a little bit everywhere. You'll get nothing. Yes.
Thakur also said that if one name didn't work, he would repeat another name, meaning another name of God. So what was he referring to?
No, that was a completely different situation when that happened. But as in his practice, it was always the Ishtam, isn't it? During his years of spiritual practice, the first 12 years, Mother Kali was everything to him. When Totapuri came and said, I see you are fit for Advait sadhana. Would you want me to teach you that? He said, I'll ask my mother. And Totapuri actually thought he's going to ask his biological mother. So that is Ishtanishta, you see. That connection with that consciousness of God has become all important. Yes.
Would you regard Ramakrishna and Holy Mother as the same Ishta, since she is the Shakti? Or would you
Yes.
have to choose between Ramakrishna and Holy Mother?
See, they are the same.
They are the same.
They are the same, there is
So
no
that
doubt.
is one Ishta, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
that would be so with Krishna and Radha. So
Yes.
the Shakti is part of the one.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Two-part question, Mataji. One is, we talk about moksha. Is moksha same as being aware of your consciousness? As one question. If consciousness is so important, why can't we just practice only Raja Yoga and leave the others? Because if that's what we're after, so just practice Raja Yoga to its fullest extent and recognize the consciousness. Is that?
Yeah. So what is moksha? See, moksha, you can roughly translate it as freedom of the soul, which means all the things we are tied down by that conditioning through which the mind functions, that is totally broken down. So it's a kind of, see, moksha is only in the mind. I mean to say bondage is only in the mind. So freedom is the unconditioning of bondage in the mind. It's only with the mind. The self is ever free. It remains as it is. But the mind is bound and the mind becomes free as the result of spiritual practice. So moksha is, if you try to understand it psychologically, I would say it is breaking all boundaries, even the epistemic limits of time, space, and causation, through which your mind functions and generates thought and identification with thought and hence the sense world. Breaking even that. But you have to understand these things through meditation, I'm telling you, not through logic. Because it will give you a different sense when you understand it through meditation. It is actually called liberation, moksha. It is liberation of the mind. From all conditioning, from all these limits, if you can liberate the mind completely, you will see you are the self and you were never the mind. The mind also was acquired from the outside. It was nothing but a collection of sense impressions that you are calling mind. And because it has mentation, that is its characteristic, it has vrittis, so you give it the reality of something very important about you. But it is nothing but, how mind is seen in Vedanta. It is considered jada. It is not conscious by itself. It is due to the presence of the self that the mind becomes conscious. So for us, in psychology and all these disciplines, mind is all important. For Vedanta, mind is nothing but subtle matter. And you can very well stay with the mind at a distance from you. Is this making sense? That is yoga, the separation of Purusha and Prakriti. Mind is Prakriti. All that is not consciousness is Prakriti. Mind is Prakriti. The separation of Purusha, consciousness, and that which is not conscious is yoga. So, mukti or moksha, how you will understand it is to be understood in the depths of meditation. And there you will see, and I guarantee you this, all of you will find that you are only searching for moksha. Even through drinks and drugs and sex and everything, people are only actually searching for that utter freedom of the soul, unbounded freedom. But they have misplaced the ideas. They feel doing all this will get them that. So this is how moksha is to be understood. And the second question said, through Raj Yoga alone can I do it? Definitely. In fact, Vivekananda made it very clear that you do it either by work, worship, psychic control, philosophy, by one or two or all of these, and reach the goal. Why we suggest the harmony of the yogas and going into all the 4 yogas is because many times all of these elements are present and working in all of us. But always you should remember one yoga will dominate in your life. Either it will be Raj Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. One will always dominate and the others will be, you are doing them for the main goal which you conceive through that particular yoga. It will always be like that. But Raj Yoga alone can bring moksha, no doubt. It's called Kaivalya in philosophical terms. The moksha of yoga is Kaivalya, which means Kevala, the self alone remains, the Purusha alone remains. Vedanta, actually speaking, is the easiest to understand and the easiest to follow. If you have achieved that, in some sense, a kind of separation from the entire mental thought process. This is not as difficult as it sounds. You have it from time to time. That is why you are interested in all this. If this is consciously done and if it is achieved, you will understand Vedanta will start making a lot of sense. You will understand everything else is a concoction of the mind. Like I was, very often I'm on these beaches, and I was one day sitting on a beach and just pondering over this vast expanse of water in front of me and thinking, are there really 5 oceans? Tell me. Or we made it up. It's just one expanse of water. I made this into the Pacific and that into the Atlantic and then the Indian Ocean, and it's our doing, our mind, and now we think this is the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific did not come to us with something written on it, that it's Pacific Ocean. We made it up. Now we absolutely believe that this much water is Pacific. We are making up things all the time. That's the work of the mind. It divides, it conditions, and it makes up things and makes us absolutely believe in reality to be as it has divided it. But you must see the whole picture. And for that, you must step out of the mind a bit. Then only this kind of thinking becomes possible. That's why I always insist, stop the mind from time to time and see things for yourself. You will see there are no 5 oceans. There is only one expanse of water, and the rest is made up. Like that, there is only one consciousness, and we think it is distributed in all these names and forms. And we are actual individuals. There is nothing so individual about your individuality. Because it's always changing. Yes?
Thank you. It's very nice to see you. I really enjoy watching you on YouTube. And I was watching something where you were talking about, I kind of came in on it late, apologize, but it's kind of in reference to the first question about our reactions to things that happen to us. And you were talking about the mind and things that you must do in order to have an orderly way of dealing with, because we do, we want to feel detached, and sometimes that works, but sometimes those reactions come and you feel caught up. And you were talking so beautifully about how to control the mind, and there were about 4 steps that you were talking about. Do you recall that? Or
4 steps to control the mind?
Well, you gave some steps to pray for, like you were telling her.
Yes.
for the other person, and just a good way to control and to manage your own
Yes.
mind,
Yes,
even
that's
in
right.
difficult circumstances.
That's
you know.
right.
Yeah.
See, yes, definitely there are steps towards it. One step is prayer. Okay, pray. If you pray, you suddenly become positive. All the strong negative emotion just goes down because you're praying for that person, for that mind, and that definitely influences that mind. Second thing is to consciously replace the emotion, which means the bitterness you're feeling, I will replace it by a kind thought. Even habits are about replacement. You have to consciously replace with another thought, or at least turn your mind towards another thought, something more positive. My students tell me, nowadays this YouTube is a big blessing for most people, because whenever they feel very challenging situations, they just go and watch something good and their mood changes. So, people are using different things in different ways. Many of the videos which we are putting out are actually knowledge-based, giving you a lot of knowledge about yoga psychology, about your own mind, and consciousness. So use whatever you can and make sure your mind remains in very positive and, if possible, exalted states of awareness. Because that is your, it's your birthright. Swamiji used to say, you are the soul, you are divine by nature, and so this is your birthright. Don't think that only the saints have it. Your own consciousness at present is part of the divine. So you are perfectly capable of all this high level devotion, clear awareness. All this refreshes the mind like anything. But if you think, no, only they are capable of it and I have to, go through this muddy kind of ways of thinking, it's not so. That is not your real nature. Vivekananda has put this in his Jnana Yoga. You are actually a child of God. And incidentally, a woman or whatever role you are playing. So assert that every day by diving into something of this. You'll get up very refreshed, I can tell you that. Yes. Yes. I think we have crossed the time. The last question, is that okay?
Okay. So there is so much violence in this world. And if one is faced with the violence, how one should react or how to deal with that situation.
So the violence in the world is the external expression of the happenings in our minds. Is this right? Yes?
Yes.
So the solution should lie in bringing change within ourselves first.
Right, but the violence is coming from outside.
It's coming from outside, but the cause is inside. Inside, even the mind of the violent.
But I can't control the mind of the violent.
But I can control my own mind, and that influences the other minds.
I said, it's hard to imagine.
It's hard to imagine. See, in Vedanta, it's easier to do than to think too much about Vedanta. If you get a hold over your own mind, in a very subtle way, you get capacity to change other minds, to affect other minds positively. Because minds are connected. I made a big change here, and it's like quantum entanglement. That mind suddenly had good feelings, good attitudes. Yes.
That can happen individual basis maybe.
Yes.
But
in a
like the war that's going on, how do you control that? That's not easy thing.
See,
to control.
if all of us started praying for the end of the war, don't you think a change would come about? Or if you just tell Putin not to do what he is doing, do you think a change will come about?
Name.
Yes. No, what I'm trying to say is, collectively, what we can do is, you can radiate peace, you can pray for everyone, and you you radiate kindness and compassion. If we can do this collectively, a huge change, wave of change will come about. But if you can't do it by only targeting the concerned, because just now they are in a state of, they are not going to listen. War is like that. It is an expression of extreme hate and anger. So you have to control it by degrees. Yes. So I think let's do the meditation now. We'll have a 15-minute meditation. And then after that, you are free to take a walk, or at 12 o'clock watch the puja. And we'll meet again at 1 o'clock for lunch. Is that okay? So this meditation is something I have introduced across a number of groups in many countries, because this really works. So let's practice it it's just a 15-minute meditation. Sit straight. The spine should be straight. That's the most important thing. And please sit as still as possible. Close your eyes. Make sure the spine is straight, the neck is straight. You'll see you suddenly become alert. You are now becoming more conscious. Now check your breathing. Let there be deep breathing. It's the easiest way to get control over your mind. When you breathe deeply, you stall the waves of the mind naturally. Breathe slowly and deeply. If you just do this, you will see your mind is not racing anymore. It has become quiet. Now I will begin the meditation. Imagine a point of light in your heart. Strongly imagine a shining point of light in your heart. This is the light of your awareness. Ever shining, ever present. Existence, consciousness and bliss. Pure being. Identify with this point of light. It is you. It is not yours. It is you. You are pure awareness. This point of light has a name. We call it Om. Om symbolizes pure awareness, the truth of your being. To help our mind grasp this, we will chant Om 9 times. You can chant with me. For the next 1 minute, just hear the Om going on in your heart. Just hear it. It is perpetually going on. When the mind is quiet, you can hear the Om. When the mind is too busy, you are unable to hear it. Now imagine that point of light which you are. Expand, expand, expand on all sides. Expand infinitely and encompass your body, your mind and thoughts, the objects around you, the world around you. The known universe and the unknown universe. Your consciousness, the real I, encompasses everything. It is in your consciousness that these shine as objects. This all-expansive consciousness, existence, consciousness and bliss, this is called Brahman. This is your real nature, pure being, complete consciousness, divine consciousness, encompassing everything in its fold. This is the source of all your energy, strength, courage, power. It is the source of your speech. It is the source of your activity, physical and mental. It is the very source of your being. You are Brahman, pure consciousness, ever present, ever shining, of the nature of existence itself and bliss itself. Soak yourself up in this idea that this is your real unchanging identity. And everything else, please see, it changes. With this sense of identity, Brahman, the infinite one, which I am, I will now open my eyes. You can open your eyes. And carry this feeling with you. That you are one with the consciousness of God. Vivekananda used to say, you are children of immortal bliss, whether you know it or not. Whether you're seeking for it or not seeking for it, or whatever you may think you are actually this. And please also see, it requires no Vedanta to tell you this. You can feel your awareness all the time. Even when you are not thinking, you are there. That's why, we never say, I'm not sure if I exist. Do we ever say that? I'm not sure if I exist. We can never say that. Our existence is so fundamental. So this is the meditation I wanted you to practice, and if you wish, you can do it every day, just 15 minutes. It's also on YouTube. Many of my students just put the YouTube video and then meditate along with that. So you can do it anyway. And I'm happy that I could come here, stay here and interact with all of you. I'm really so happy to meet you. You appear like sincere sadhaks to me, like rishis in this tapovan. Thank you very much.